Wow. I just did an entire reading that was not recorded. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. Wow, that's really frustrating. It was so in depth, and I had an animal messenger come up and everything. So I can only imagine that I'm not meant to share it. It was, I guess, for my own benefit, for my own, maybe. I'm very frustrated right now, like really frustrated right now. I don't know if I'm meant to share it. If I will, I guess it'll come out in the messages, because it was really intense, and it was really filled with a lot of depth and understanding. Maybe what I've discovered or figured out is not meant to be shared, because whoever I was going to share it with has got to figure it out on their own without my help. They need to make this decision on their own. I will tell you that it represents this one. I saw it in my dreams. The grandfather wearing the tall hat. The little boy wearing a lower hat that was black. The little boy putting the tall hat on the grandfather, bonding with the grandfather, expressing himself, sharing with his grandfather, who was in spirit. I'm not going to say any more unless it comes up, but I'll say that in case that's something that somebody needs to understand. Song. I'll wait for you. I came home like a stone and fell heavy into your arms. You forgave and I won't forget. I'll wait for you. Okay. That may come up in the dream. In the dream. My dreams were intense. I was in a Jewish synagogue and also dealing with Native American grandfathers. It was intense. All right, so we're going to work with the vamp. How interesting, because this is all about religion, and the very first thing that came up with was religion. So I feel like I'm supposed to tell you what got erased. So what I dreamed was a little boy, and I watch him with his cousins, and his cousins are making fun of him. He's dressed up. He's in a suit. All the men are in black. The women are sitting there talking. The man yells at the boy, tells him he's not sitting in the right seat. I go into this back room, and there's a man, a grandfather, and his head is on the wall, like literally like an antler, the deer head on the wall. And I have what I felt was a crystal ashtray in my hand. I don't know if maybe it was I don't know what it was. I'm not in the Jewish culture, but I felt like I was in a mix of Jewish culture, Catholic culture, and Native culture. It was bizarre. I go up to the grandfather and I hold the crystal ashtray up to him, and it starts to vibrate. And I felt like it was going to crack. It freaked me out. So the little boy comes in and he tells me about the man who yelled at him about sitting in the wrong spot. And I said, don't worry about it. It's okay. You know where you can sit. Don't worry about him. And he told me about the kids making fun of him. And I said, you talk to him, to the grandfather. So he took the crystal ashtray and he went to the grandfather and he stood there and he wasn't afraid of him like I was. And he started talking to him. And it was interesting because the grandfather, now see, I started crying when I told you originally, so I probably won't now because it's got to come out of my body. But when the grandfather bent down, oh, it's coming again. When the grandfather bent down, the little boy put a top hat on him, a black top hat. That's what it looked like to me. And the grandfather felt like he had a mustache to me. And the little boy put a little black hat. To me, it was like a yarmulke. And the little boy was shown to me as my grandson, Trey, because my daughter is married to my daughter had a little boy, my grandson, and then she married her husband, Jacob, whose family is Jewish. Jacob is not practicing, but his mother is. The family all does all the holiday stuff, and Jacob is not part of it. And there's always kind of a struggle because he doesn't really participate, and the mother always wants him to. So sometimes my daughter and my grandson would go with her husband to the family's celebrations to make the mother happy. And he loves his grandfather. That's what's interesting to me is Jacob, her husband, loves his grandfather. He's very, very close to him. Jacob's father ran off when he was a kid, and so his grandfather took him under his wing, and he's a very loving, gentle man. He supports everyone in the family. I don't think anybody works. The grandfather supports them all. And they have a very opulent lifestyle. But Jacob works. And that's one of the things that the grandfather would always say in front of everyone else. That's what I like about you. You have a job. And so the other siblings don't really like my grandson, my son-in-law, because he's different than them. He's a worker. But that's what his grandfather respects about him. So I just had to give you that background because it somehow plays into this, because the little boy they showed me him as Trey, my grandson. My grandson is a crystal child. He's very connected. And I know it's not Trey that I'm seeing. So he puts the little yarmulke on, puts the top hat on the grandfather, and he starts telling him about what the other kids are pushing him around, his cousins, and they're just kind of talking. He's very comfortable with him. I leave the room, and another woman goes in and then comes out of the room, and I said, "What's going on in there?" And she said, "Oh, he's just complaining to his grandfather." And in my head, I said, "He's not complaining. He's expressing himself, and they're bonding, and I'm proud of him." I was very moved by it. And then I went across the room to the boy's mother, and and all the women were sitting there, felt like they were gossiping, and it felt like there was a show being put on. And I feel like it was that shown to me that way because they were presenting themselves as a certain way, but they weren't living their lives that way. And the men were very controlling and bossy, and this man was very arrogant that was speaking. And I leaned down and I whispered to her, "I just want to tell you what's going on." And I told her what he was doing, and I said, "I'm very proud of him." And then I walked away, and I went into this room next to where he was with the grandfather talking, and there were these plants and in pots, and I started to light them all on fire, and I thought, well, there's still plants in here, so I wanted to save the plants, and I took the plants out, and I was looking for one of my mother's pots that was in the shed, and I picked one up. Then I woke up and I thought, I can't deal with this. I don't want to watch this. This isn't me. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it. It was very emotional, and I needed to sleep, so I went back to sleep, and I started the dream up again. And now I'm in the bathroom with my mother, who is in spirit, so now this is all spiritual, and the little boy who represents, was shown to me as my grandson, but he's older now. And we're all, I guess everyone's having a shower or getting ready to go somewhere. And the little boy's putting lotion on these little spots on his body, almost like he had the chicken pox or something. And I said to him, "Make sure that dries before you put your clothes on, because I don't want it to stick. You don't want it to stick to your clothes." And then he runs out and jumps in the pool and comes back in and he goes, okay, instead of having a shower, he jumped in the pool and he got ready. So, and then I handed my mother a towel. I know in the Jehovah's Witness organization, when you get baptized, you're all there. There's all these people there, and maybe that's what was happening in the pool, because that's what they would do. They would get baptized in a pool. I don't know what the lotion would represent. Maybe when you put lotion on, you put lotion on to protect yourself, or also if you've got something like an infection or something, so covering up something, and the spots would represent an imperfection, so maybe covering up your sins. I don't know. You go in to cleanse yourself. I don't know what it represented, but my grandson was in it, and I loved him, and I was proud of him for expressing himself, and he loved his grandfather. Now, the interesting part was the grandfather, the fact that he called him grandfather. When I heard grandfather, I immediately went to the native culture. My spiritual twin was Cherokee, half Cherokee, and spent many years on the Navajo reservation with the Dreamwalkers, he told me. Very happy, just like I was raised. I was raised as a hippie child in the mountains, with my grandmother, and my mother married a man when I was 8, and I was adopted, and I was a Jehovah's Witness, and my lifestyle changed radically. So I went from one culture to another culture. I was raised in that, and I believed it strongly, and I taught my children that belief system, and I feared God instead of loved him. And eventually my parents both left that organization, but I didn't. I was raised in it, and I thought I was doing the right thing, and I raised my kids that way. My daughter never took to it. She left. And then when I left the organization, it took me many years to allow myself to separate and know that I wasn't doing anything wrong, that I was not talking to demons. I am talking to angels. I am speaking to my Father. It is very loving. And my son has cut me out of his life because he's still in that organization. So I'm speaking to you guys all about this because everything happens for a reason. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness for a reason, but I went back to my original lifestyle, my original belief system, who I am. My son is still in that organization, and he can't accept me for who I am. There is a great separating work going on. There is. Even the Jehovah's Witnesses teach about a great separating work. They believe that they separate from all of us. But there's a separating work going on for the ones who are meant to follow their soul's path, who have been raised in religion or raised in families that don't believe or disagree with their belief system. And when I wake up, I'm all, this dream is overwhelming. And I get a message from my friend who's had almost the exact same dream. And she is married a man who is Jewish, and she converted to Judaism. And her husband is very controlling, very loving, but very overprotective and smothers her. So I feel like I'm watching the same thing. You know, I was so upset about it because I know my grandson has been bullied. So I wrote my daughter, who's not even speaking to me, and I asked, is he okay? Because I showed her what I saw. And she said, no, they didn't go to Passover. This is the first time. No one even bothered asking them, and they're not going for the first time. She hates it, and Jacob doesn't want to do it, so they're not going. My grandson's getting along with his cousins. He spent the night at his cousins the other night. They got along well. And so the families are the families that were raised to believe in the Jewish culture they're cohabitating, they're mingling, even though they have a difference of beliefs, which makes me think of that. I don't even know how much of this I told you. I'm so discombobulated. I talked about the building yesterday, the heritage building that I saw, an old building in Sturgeon Bay that was being torn down, and the city was trying to stop it from being torn down. They wanted to restore it. And you think about wanting to restore something to your original beauty, right? This is us wanting to restore ourselves. When we are reawakened, we're reborn, and we are being restored to our natural beauty, who we have awakened to spirituality. So it was a battle. They were going to tear it down. There was opposition, right? There's opposition against dark energy. They don't want us to awaken. They don't want us to follow our soul's path. Religion wants to hold us back. Families want us to stay in that. And there's opposition. And it was right down to the wrecking ball. They were such opposition. They weren't going to be able to save the granary. And everyone was so upset because they wanted it. It was a part of their culture. It was a part of their belief system. It was a part of their family. It was a part of their roots. It mattered to them. And in the last moment, an anonymous donor came forward with hundreds of thousands of dollars and donated anonymously to save the granary and have it moved from one side of the bridge to the other. Now think about it. We have to build a bridge from where we are to where we're going. The water is your emotions. So he paid, and the community came together and carried that building across the bridge. So it didn't do it alone, just like we're not doing it alone. Spirit is coming to carry us. The anonymous donor would be Spirit coming forward to give us what we need to move away across that bridge from where we stood. And it came and it was rested on the other side. And now get this, it was separated from its sibling building. And somebody said it's bittersweet because the siblings have been separated. So families are separated. But it was saved. And it was taken across the bridge by the community, which is the soul family, set down on the opposite side of the bridge, but on the opposite side of the bridge. You know what I mean? It crossed the river to the other side, but it was again on the opposite side of the bridge from its sibling brother, but it stood on its own 2 feet facing. So it didn't run. It stayed right there facing them on the opposite side, where it would now be restored to its natural beauty and would be now become a community center. So part of soul family. So this whole thing is all connected. And it's somebody is struggling with their religious belief system and what they were raised to believe in their family's traditions and what their soul is calling. And the reason I know that this is supposed to happen is because the first card that we get in the vampire deck, and you think about the vampire is an energy vampire, right? It's religion, canon, rules, commandments. Now, what was interesting was I felt like I was in a confession box. Remember? Oh, he's complaining to his grandfather. No, he isn't. He's expressing himself, and he's bonding with him. Well, like I said, my son-in-law, Jacob, loved his grandfather. He did bond with him, and he would share everything with him because he was like his father. Well, that would be our father, wouldn't it? When the great wave comes, the great wave of emotion, go to the mountain. The mountain is spirit. The mountain is meditation. There's Buddha on the mountain. That's where he went. The crystal mountain, connecting to spirit, where you can find what your true soul's calling is telling you, where you're grounded. So the grandfather represents many things to me. The grandfather would represent our own father. The grandfather would represent possibly, as I said, Jacob's Jewish grandfather, but it also represented, my twin is a Native American, half Jew, which is weird. I don't understand how that happened. And I kept hearing the word Anasazi. And I said, I keep hearing the word Anasazi. Does that mean something to us? And he said, yes, it's the ancient ones. They're coming to guide you. Listen to them. Now, remember when I was in Sedona and I was at West Fork Trail, crossing the 7 rivers. 7. You're on the right path and it will exceed your expectations. I went through the whole trail during a lightning storm. Everyone was turning back, but I kept going. I wanted to go through it. It was warm, but it was lightning coming down. There was trees that were lit on fire in front of me. Remember the tree that was split by lightning that we were shown in from the Akashic Tarot, like last week. There's a splitting family. This family tree is being split by lightning. Now, what's interesting is the song comes to me. I was lightning before the thunder gods. You think about that. I was lightning before the thunder. And when I got to the end of the trail, I said, I want you to give me one special stone from this place that means something. And I bent down in the river at my feet, and this is what I was given. You can't see it up close in this light, but those eyes are crystals. They're filled with crystal. Crystal eyes, like my twin has crystal eyes, and my grandson, Trey, has crystal eyes. My grandson is a crystal child, and look at the crystals wrapping around the Herkimer diamonds. And what did he say to me? Those are the ancient ones, listen to them. This is Anasazi pottery. That's the name, the word that I kept hearing. And when I got this cat face, and it's clearly a cat face, you can see it, like my cat Lily, right? And I thought, one ear is up, one ear is down. Well, your ear would be your psychic antenna. You're paying attention. And I thought, well, he's not listening. But then this pottery piece came to me, and I started to make my creation, and it just happened. And I realized, no, he's got his ear listening to the ancient ones. Put your ear down and listen to the ancient ones. So that would represent the grandfather, which brought me to the Native American, because I've seen the grandfather. I see the grandfathers in the rocks all the time. The guidance coming from the grandfather. I have a past life as a Native American, many past lives. I've seen it. I don't have a Jewish past life unless they're showing me this. Or maybe it's back in Israelite times. I don't know. But I'm connecting to all of these different religions right now, and I felt like I was in confession, right? Everyone was putting on a show. They weren't walking their talk. They weren't walking their walk, talking their talk. They went and they did all of these rituals and they did all of this stuff, but they lived outside of their lifestyle, right? They did different things. They didn't follow that. They talked really great, in church, but then they went out and were doing drugs and sleeping with people and cheating and lying and manipulating. And yet here they all are dressed up in their finery. It reminded me of the chess game, right? The chessboard that we saw the other day, and the light ones came forward and knocked the dark one down. The light ones, they were only light because they put that shiny facade on, and they called the other one dark because he was the black sheep of the family, and they knocked him down, when in all reality, the black sheep of the family was doing what was right. It was the ones wearing the shiny facade that are the ones that are in the wrong. So we have the message, religion, canon, rules. Look at this one. Commandments. Does she look happy? No. She's all dressed up in her religious garb. There's been so much persecution and dogma beaten into us because of religion. It has been for me. And yet it might be something that's so ingrained in you because it's you were raised this way. It's your culture. If you're Jewish, it's not only your religion, it's who you are. You were raised to believe this is who I am. So if I step away from this, I lose my identity. Remember, it's bittersweet. That heritage building was being separated from its sibling building, taken across that bridge by an anonymous, generous benefactor that was going to allow him to stand on his own 2 feet and be restored to his own natural beauty. And remember the story I told you about the family, that wealthy family who had a certain culture, and the boy fell in love with this woman and he wanted to marry her, and the family said, we'll cut you off and we'll disown you. And he said, I don't care. I love her. You're not going to tell me how to live my life. And he married her, and they cut him off. And he and her together went together, and they built. They had to start out on their own, and it was rough. They had to simplify, but they did it, and they built themselves up, and they were financially very wealthy and very well off. This is a real story, a true story. And they did it on their own, and he felt proud of himself for accomplishing it on his own, for standing up for his own belief system, and how she felt loved for her standing up for him. For her. The love between them, and they were partners, they were a team. So this is about teamwork, and about how going across the bridge, that heritage building wasn't able to get there without that generous benefactor. And they wasn't able to get there without the community, the soul family to support it. We don't do anything on our own. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness for a reason, so that I could help people understand how it's okay. And I understand what you're going through when you're leaving that belief system, and how hard it is to separate from what your family expects of you and what you have expected of yourself, and letting go of the guilt. You know, you have to go to confession. I have to confess all of my sins in front of this person. My father was an elder in the Jehovah's Witness organization, and people would come and confess to him. Elders, also elders, who were having affairs with other sisters in the congregation, and up there on the platform giving talks. Finally, he said, I can't stay here. I need to leave this. It's disgusting. Those elders, and here's my Lily expressing herself. Those elders up there, he says, this one's sleeping with that one's wife, and that one's sleeping with this one's wife, and this one molesting that one's child, and oh my God. So this is what we saw in the chess game. That's what we saw. Those ones in the benevolent, you know, ones who put themselves out this way, like the Pharisees in the Jewish times. The Pharisees, they were glitzy and the garb and all of their rituals and rules, and they were hard on the Jewish people. They wanted all the money. They were all opulent, but they were crooked. They were crooks. They set up money changing tables in their father's house, and Jesus flipped the money changer tables over. He stood up to them. He wasn't about religion. It's about love. It isn't about religion. Religion was created by man to control. And it's very difficult for us to walk away from that, especially when our families are all wrapped up, and it's all wrapped up in fun and festivals and family culture, and oh, we just do it to get together. It's Easter time and blah, blah, blah. How many people really celebrate Easter and it is what they think it is? It's Easter egg hunts. It's parties. It's, you know, we didn't ever celebrate it because we didn't believe in it, but, and you can do whatever you want. I'm being told to speak, and I speak. I am expressing myself, and I am not worried. I'm not fearful. Like the crystal that was holding up, you know, being afraid to speak. I'm not afraid to speak. So right now, structure, the family feeling of religions, maybe they feel safe. Maybe they make you feel secure, because it is that feeling. Jacob's family is huge. The whole family comes together for dinners. The cousins, the uncles, the aunts, everyone. They all come together. They eat, they party, they get drunk. They do all kinds of stuff, but they belong. And yet they're all cutting each other down behind each other's backs, and they're all out trying to outdo each other. And in all reality, it isn't safe. It isn't a safe place. You're getting knocked down. And if you don't do what they tell you to do, you're the black sheep. So it's suffocating. You have to understand, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? I'm not comfortable in this. Why am I not comfortable in this? Religion, religious beliefs, you know, it's suffocating our true expression of our soul. It's a form of black magic. They use that to control us. It's mind control. It was mind control for me. It took me 7 years. 7 years to let go and realize I'm allowed to talk to my father. He's my father. I don't have to go to the priest and confess my sins. I'll go to my dad and I'll talk to him like my dad. Like that little crystal child that went to his grandfather. He wasn't confessing. He was expressing himself, and he was bonding. He felt loved by his father, his grandfather. Not afraid. I felt like I was watching two parts of the same person. The one who was terrified, and the one who felt loved and was able to express himself openly. And the benevolent masters, those are our ascended masters, the anonymous ones that are helping us cross that emotional bridge to help us be reborn and stand on our own 2 feet and be part of our soul family who accepts us, all of us, our imperfections, who don't try and tell us to cover up those spots. You don't have to cover up anything. We love you for who you are, because you are that way. That's what makes you so special. We're not going to make fun of you and ostracize you and tell you if you don't do this, we're going to disown you. We want you to be a part of us, a part of our community. We love you. We accept you as you are. We come to temper the law with love, not to uphold the law. We come to be the rebels. We dare to dream a different dream. We won't be that monument that has a plastic bag putting upon us like a gag, trying to knock us down. Like in that chess game. You who stand there looking so shiny and beautiful, when you're dark souls and hearts that judge people, condemn people, make fun of people, ridicule people, sleep with each other's husbands and wives, cheat on each other, cheat each other, try to keep up with the Joneses, go into debt to try and be something that you're not. So this religious or cultural belief system that has made you feel safe, is it really making you feel safe, or does it make you feel like you're in prison? Because there's beauty in rites and rituals and history and in tradition. There is. I have rituals. I go put all of my crystals out under the full moon, and I thank and I release everything that I no longer wish to carry. I have an altar. I put my crystals out. This is my altar. This brings me strength. It connects me to earth and to my Father and to the crystals of the earth, and I say thank you. This doesn't make me feel tied down or bad or evil or wicked, or I have to confess and light 6 candles or not eat tonight, and if I vacuum my house tonight I'm in trouble, or if I flip a light switch it's wrong. It's insanity. Yes, those are rituals. They're ridiculous rituals. We don't need those rituals anymore. Now, there may be things that to you it makes you feel warm and fuzzy and close to your traditions. But does it really? And if it does, it's your choice. Not because you're expected to do it. We should have a choice. The blessing is that there's beauty in these traditions. And the family structure is there, and the loving families coming together. There can be beauty in that. The curse is the need to adhere to strict beliefs and give your power away to someone else. And your connection to the divine is corrupted. And the power is given to few, the religious leaders or the elite ones. That's the curse. So maybe it's learning more about world's religions. Maybe begin to understand how it's influenced your life, your own culture, your laws, or even the conditions, the way we live now. And it feels exhausting, it is, but it could be helpful for you to look into. And you could understand the differences between people and why they are the way they are. The personal ethics and faith and connection. How religion is revealed to another. It was revealed to me. It's been revealed to me. I lived a similar culture, but different. Right? Order. Rules. Direction. So at this time, all Spirit's saying is they want you to examine your own heart. I'm getting ringing in both of my ears. My ear chakras are lit up. Now is the time to examine your own heart. This is your time. This is your choice. So for you to say, this is mine. This is for me. This is what I worship. This is what I love. I have taken a little bit of everything. I'm not I don't believe in Judaism. I'm not Buddhist. I'm not Taoist. I'm not Jehovah's Witness. I'm not Native American belief system. I'm not New Age. I'm not anything. I'm a little bit of everything that I have learned. I take a little bit of everything that every culture and every belief system that is love. And I incorporate all of that into who I am. I am me. I am free. And my Father and I have a loving connection. And I don't feel afraid to go to him. I know that I can call upon my benevolent ascended masters to help me cross my emotional waters. And they will support me and help me rebuild myself to be the best of who I am. And I'm not judged for who I am. I'm loved for who I am. And the bird that came while I was speaking was the sparrow, and it came over and sat on the railing. The sparrow is of victory, but it also is of self-worth. I know my own self-worth. I will no longer be told I'm not good enough. I am good enough just the way I am. And I get better every day as I embrace my own divinity. So that's the first message. Long. That's it for that deck. That's too intense for me. So we're gonna go to the Faerytale, and these are the decks that I was asked to work with, and I'm asking for them not to be too intense. I'm gonna ask for a song, see if there's something we need to hear. All right, well, somebody has found somebody that they believe in. I found me an angel. So it could also be your belief. I found what I believe in. And no one's going to tell me what to do. I've never felt the feelings that I feel before. I'm going to embrace them. And you. Whatever that means for you. I'm looking at my little grouping here. The desert rose and the little fox, the camouflaged fox and the fluorite. I love that. This is how I feel with the crystals. The fox talks about flexibility and adaptability and also the art of camouflage. Sometimes you need to camouflage. Sometimes you don't need to share your beliefs. Sometimes you don't need to share what you're feeling or what you're going to do. You don't need to confess. You live your own life. The desert rose is about connecting to your sensitive side. It helps you with depression and anxiety. Helps you express yourself. So does the moldavite mica, or the muscovite mica in front of it. And the fluorite, oh, that's the tower. The tower has hit. It has hit. There is big change happening right now. But that little fox is snuggled in the arms of the crystals, in the arms of spirit. It's safe and protected. And if that means that you need to camouflage your intentions or what you're doing, you do that. If you have to stand up, you are that tower. You don't have to, to me, it's about you don't have to explain to anyone. If they don't understand it, you don't have to explain it to them. It's your choice. I would say more than the art of camouflage, because it's more about coming out now and finding yourself. Maybe you have been camouflaging yourself, but now the tower is there, and the tower is about expressing yourself, and the fox is about adaptability and flexibility. So maybe being flexible in your own belief system and with yourself. I take a little bit of this. You know, this is my culture. This is my heritage. I love that about my heritage. But I'm going to incorporate my spiritual belief systems and blend them all together. I can do that because I am unique in my own individuality, and that's okay. Because my Father created all of us. The Native American, the Jewish, the Jehovah's Witness, the Buddhist, the Taoist, the hippie, this New Age person, I all have one Father. That's the tower. We call it the Tower of Babel. All the different cultures, all the different beliefs, all the different languages. Look at all blended together in one beautiful rainbow. All together as one soul family. That's what I see there. Flexibility, adaptability, becoming yourself, being comfortable, speaking your truth. All right. Correct for neutrality on all levels. Good to know my grandson's happy, though, because that was upsetting for me. God, we've had this one. We keep getting this one. Well, maybe it's because it's telling us something is now taking place. It's positive. I saw that boy talking to his grandfather, and there was love between them. And that grandfather definitely looked like he was a religious leader. So what's going on here in this message is, here, I'm going to put this, because it's the same colors. Look at the color. The light lavender, the lilac color. And the turquoise is speaking the truth. Turquoise aura. Aquamarine as well. It's very gentle, peaceful, loving. Now what the story is this girl has 3 sisters, or 2 sisters, and they have a king, father, very controlling. And he asks how they feel about him. And the one little sister says something like, you mean as much to me as my eyes do, or something like that. And the other sister says, you mean as much to me as my legs do. I don't know what the story is, something like that, something huge. And then this little one says, you mean as much to me as water and salt. And the father was up. He's a king. He's outraged. One said, and my eyes, and one said, my heart. That's what it was, my eyes and my heart. And then this one said salt and water. And the father was disgusted and outraged and said that this person had disrespected him. Now think about this, what we were just talking about. This one said something different than the others. Didn't give as much of herself as he thought and disrespected him. He ordered her to be put to death and had the executioner take her away. This could be a boy or a girl, right? So the sisters went and didn't want their sister to be put to death. So they talked the executioner into taking a little dog and killing the dog and bringing the heart back to the father, because the father wanted proof that this had been done. And so they did that, and they hid their sister in a cave. And when the executioner brought the heart back to the father, he had grief. He was sorry. He wished he hadn't done it, but he didn't allow anyone to know that. And the princess was kept in the cave, and each day she would leave her cave and she'd go into the forest to get her food, berries and nuts. And once she was out there, once she came across a magician who took her to the kingdom. And the king's son in the kingdom saw her, and they loved each other, and they vowed to stay together, and they got married. So when the kings from the countries were invited to the wedding, to the feast, her father was brought. And he had traveled a great distance, they all had. And he was the only one that was not given water or salt. He needed the water to clean himself, the salt to taste his food, and the water to drink, of course, his thirst, because he was so thirsty from this travels. Also the food, he didn't have anything to quench his thirst. But he wasn't given that. So he was miserable, and she watched her father. He wasn't able to eat. He refused the wine, and he was miserable. And then she came out and stood in front of him like that tower. And she said, "Banish your grief from your eyes, Father, and look upon me. You caused me to be killed because I told you I loved you as much as salt and water. And now you have seen what it is to eat without salt and water." So her father, the proud king, he looked at her and saw this grown, beautiful, wonderful woman. And pride broke inside of him, and he started to weep. Tears. Think about what the tears were. Salt, water. And they were the truest things. They came from his heart, from his soul. He tasted his own truth, that she had loved him, the truest and deepest. And she knew what was needed in life, water and salt. He was never the same king again. That king that was ready to kill because of his pride, he'd been broken by his own grief. And he learned the truth now, that truth and kindness are better than praise that wasn't even real, like those fake people that go and they tell you what you want to hear. They dress up and they live that life and the chess game. She spoke the truth. She didn't do what her father wanted her to do. Think about all the different meanings of this. She went against the culture. She went against the belief system. She went against what was expected. She spoke her truth. She stood on her own, said, "This is how I feel from my heart." And he banished her from his life. It's like being my son. I'm standing up for what I believe, my belief system, my heart, my soul's path, and my son has banished me from his life. He may as well have cut my heart out. Because he told me, "You're dead to me." He told me that. My arms are open to you if you want to come back to this organization, but if you don't, you're dead to me. This is what happened to this one. So when the king realized the truth of this, he became a good king. And everyone benefited, everyone in the land, because he now wasn't what he was before, this arrogant, unkind, rule-bound, stern man. So this message is about speaking your truth, the plain truth. And when you do, often you're punished for it. If you stand up like that tower, you come out of your camouflage. You've been going and doing all the things, going through the rituals, going through the routine, following like everyone else, like my stepson or my son-in-law, going to the family functions, but not living his life that way. I go there, but I don't believe it. And then when you finally tell, "This is how I believe," you get kicked out of your family. Or they ostracize you, they make fun of you. So here, this is the story. Speaking the truth is often punished. So you might be punished for saying what you believe and standing in your own truth. Look, this is who I am. I understand that you love me. I understand this is what you want, but it's not for me. Like the Eiffel Towers. They want to pulverize those Eiffel Towers. Put a gag upon that monument. Don't let you speak your truth. But you say, "This is not the life for me." Trials by fire, setting fires. This is not the life by me. For me, I dare to dream a different dream. I speak my truth. So maybe you will be ostracized, cut off, not understood. But that's it's going to be worth it because you're standing in your own personal integrity. And in time, it will have been worth it, like that one who went and lived their own life. But be prepared in the short term that it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to go through this. In the long term, you will be rewarded. Spirit shows you will be rewarded. And every moment of this uncomfortableness will have been worth it. You have stood in your integrity, on your honor, in your own soul's belief system. You've told your truth. You've honored your soul. How can you are killing yourself slowly when you refuse to stand up and believe and speak and say, this is who I am. I've been gay my whole life and I've been married and I don't want to be married to you. I'm a gay man or I'm a gay woman. I have a whole family, but I'm gay. I didn't want to come out and let you know because you wouldn't accept me for who I am. But I have to accept, this is who I am. I need to love myself for who I am. Well, that song, where they dare to dream to be different, they say, kill all the fags that don't agree. Right? Kill them, just like this father said, cut her heart out. That's not a loving God. That is not love. Flee from judgment, ridicule, blame, anger, fear, doubt. Go to where there's love, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, mercy. The basic truth of love, unadorned, unembellished truth, plain honesty, truth, clarity, the truth of what we need to survive, the truth that love should not be tested. You must do this for me. If you love me, you must do this. If you don't do this, you don't love me, or I will withhold my love from you. Anger at being unloved, that's pride. Pride can kill. Yes, it can. Holy moly. These are heavy. But they all go together, don't they? The time for truce is over. The time for placating other people and living a lie. You are slowly killing your own soul by living a lie. And some, like my grandson, he went and he told his grandfather. His grandfather bent down to him and allowed him to put that hat on him. And he expressed himself openly and honestly. And his grandfather listened to him. I saw 4 years ago in my dream a boy that I loved ran away from his family. He went everywhere trying to plant his trees. And he had such a hard time. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. Everywhere he went. And I watched him. He hid me in his father's house. I was hiding in the basement. His father didn't know I was there. And he was watching his son, and I was watching him too. And then the father found me in the house. And I watched as he struggled. He was so tired. Everywhere he went, his business was turned down. He wasn't able to make his business prosper, and he was exhausted. He kept trying again and again. And finally he came across the street and saw that his father had found me in his house. And he thought that he was going to be in trouble. And he bent down. He kneeled down at his father's feet. And when I looked down at him, he turned into a little boy. He was like 5 years old, like the little boy I watch in my dreams. And his father bent down and he picked him up. And he took him into his arms. And the boy put his head against his father's chest. And he relaxed. And for the first time, he rested. And the father turned and carried him into his house, and I went after him. And in my dreams, I've said to the father, when will he be able to come home? Can he come home now? And he said he must bow down. He must bow down. It won't go well for him until he does. But the bowing down wasn't to be subjected to a lashing, a tongue lashing, or to be ridiculed. He was to come and bow down to his spiritual self, to the truth of his soul, to his father. And when his father picked him up, and the little boy looked in his father's eyes, he was so afraid. And his father said to him, don't you know that all I wanted was for you to be happy? And he embraced him. He was finally able to rest on his father's heart. He came home to his father, like the heritage building that came across the bridge, to stand on his own 2 feet, surrounded by the community of soul family, to help him be rebuilt and restored to his natural beauty. Because all of our Father wants for all of us is to be happy. He doesn't want us to be sad. He doesn't want us to fight. He doesn't want us to struggle. or beat ourselves up or feel guilty about who we are or what we want. But we must bow down in humility and humbly accept that we can't do it all, and we need our Father. We need our spiritual soul connection. That's what we bow down to, the truth of who we are. It's time to allow yourself to be carried, to be embraced. Accept the love that's being offered to you. Embrace what your soul has been longing for. You've run and run and run, and you've tried to do it on your own, but you're tired. So come to your Father. Embrace what your soul has been longing for.